We're live. We're here.
Hey everybody. Might be somewhat familiar to those who have been in this Twitch chat before, but now you get to hear me live. I am the power of luck.
And I'm Lily Polydora for anyone who's just, coming across this randomly for any reason. If you're a Percy Jackson fan and just stumbling across this, or if you just wanted something real neat to listen to in the background, I don't know, maybe we can be that for you. You good? You there?
I am most certainly there.
You wanna? Okay.
Did you expect for me to speak over your intro?
I did. I gave the. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I don't. Okay, listen.
Hey, listen. You're the host here, okay? I'm
True.
co-host at best.
True. Let me check the chat widget. And while you're doing that, how about you tell everyone here what book we read? The cover should be prominent on the screen, but how about you give us a little intro?
Well, if you follow my eyes looking down to the bottom left of the screen, you can tell we have read The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, a part of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. The first book, of course. And in my opinion, this book has actually been quite gripping. I will admit there was a plot twist that actually managed to twist me, which I was not anticipating. I was anticipating something quite different, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For a more proper synopsis, this story is a urban fantasy setting where it's taking place where the Greek gods are real. Of course, you could probably assume this by the name. And our titular main character is Percy Jackson. He basically has to go through a series of trials in order to help save the day. I'm not sure how much I'm willing to stray into spoiler territory when we're about to go chapter by chapter, so do beware of spoilers as you proceed with this listening.
No, this is a book by author Rick Riordan. I did have to look up how that was pronounced like a couple seconds ago, but
I would also like to interject and say I called it.
he knew. Okay, fun fact. I read this book first when I was a pretty young kid, not technically when it came out. I think I was maybe in the 5th grade, which would put that in maybe 2010. And that's when I first came across the book series. I pretty much instantly fell in love. It was like a little bit after, as a class, we had read the Odyssey for the first time, and so I think I was in like just the right space to want to just absolutely slurp down a story about Greek gods and such. And this was like, it became a perfect time for me, basically. So I have a really long history with these books. I've not read all of them. I've read all the Percy Jackson books, but I've not read the Heroes of Olympus books, which hopefully we'll get to by like the end of the year. We're gonna try and do one a month of these in the future, but
And to contrast with Lily here, despite the fact I worked at a library, I am illiterate. I have not read these books before, and this was my first experience with them, besides a movie that I kind of forgot existed.
We'll fucking get to the movie eventually.
Lightning noises.
Excuse me, they get struck down by lightning, but we'll get to those eventually. Those are they age worse and worse with each given year, but we will get to those. It's probably going to be our April Fool's stream, actually.
We will burn that bridge when we get to it.
Oh, absolutely. But for now, let's not allow let's not allow mention of it to pass our lips. Let's swear in the river Styx and not allow mention of it to pass our lips from here on out.
That's quite a high swearing. You best not break it.
It is. I'm surprised another lightning strike didn't happen.
No, the big Z has other things to be occupied with than just us.
Other things to do then, I guess. Well, yeah, Luck gave a pretty good synopsis there, all about young Percy here finding his way. I'll say it on its face, and just like how much did I enjoy coming back to this after so many years. I liked it a lot. I did actually write like a little mini 100-word review at the end of my notes here to get to, but I will just put at the beginning that like if you're coming across this video and you have not read these books in a long time, like I haven't, and you are wondering if it holds up or if it's worth rereading them for the sake of this video, yeah, feel free to pause and go read it. It's great. It absolutely holds up. It's like, as someone who just got an English degree recently, and so I've spent a lot of time actually rereading some books from my childhood, this is the most fun I've had doing that, like, for basically my whole college career. And it's just so good. It's so well constructed, well written.
I gotta agree with you there, because I even found myself caring about these characters, and like, as I said before, I'm not a reader. Books and I normally don't click, despite the fact I did political science stuff, but yet I was able to read and actually be like, yo, I kinda wanna know what goes on next. Yo, I kinda hate this child.
Was that wait, oh god, who did you hate? Who did you hate?
Nancy Bobofits, of course.
What? Oh, Boba.
Nancy.
Oh yeah,
Boba
yeah.
Fett.
Boba Fett.
Nancy Bobofits.
Nancy Boba Fett.
Boba Fett from Star Wars, yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. I was worried because I know through our DMs that you did not like Annabeth too much at the beginning. We'll get to her when we get to her.
I didn't trust her. Not that I didn't like her. Big difference between the two.
Speaking of which, might as well give a good introduction to the characters. We have Percy Jackson, the son of Poseidon, the main character of the show, or the book, and and the you know, titular character, the one. How many times are we gonna say that? How many times am I gonna repeat that? Who knows?
You said that twice.
I've said it so many times.
Moving on for the protagonist, we have the side characters.
The side characters! So,
we have Girl and Goat. Clearly, a partner or a pairing that shows up in every version of media.
Okay, though. Actually, though, Annabeth was my favorite character growing up. I think I was very much not alone as far as young girls reading this series growing up. Like, she was every girl who read this as a kid's favorite at some point. She's
apparently the book's description had told her, or not told her, described her as basic Cali girl.
I mean, that is me, I guess. So, you know, checks out.
Just like you, for real.
Yeah. They even made her black in the show, which also me. So it checks out.
Yeah, I forgot the show existed.
Yeah. We'll also get to the show eventually. The show's much better.
I'd like to point out we have yet to start chapter 1.
We have yet. Well, we're doing the preamble. We're talking about Grover.
He's not even been introduced to
Grover,
like
the
6.
Goat Man, of course. Yeah. Oh yeah. Annabeth, daughter of Athena. Grover, the Goat Man. The satyr.
Some goat who left and to get some milk.
Yeah. Also a bunch of gods who are, you know, the worst parents on the planet, and it's like really actually a race to the bottom as far as which of them are the worst parents in the whole series.
Shockingly enough, I think the god of the wild that the satyrs revere is one of the better of the fathers out there, despite not being a father.
Yeah, he's not a dad.
And being presumed dead.
We haven't met him. Actually, I think we won't meet him for a long time, actually.
When you compare him to the likes of some of the other deities that I have seen so far, I think it is still safe to say I would rather have a presumed dead god that's not my father as my father.
Yeah, we'll get to the gods as we get to them, because I think they're all very interesting characters that deserve to be discussed individually, and we'll also discuss the main characters as we go.
I'm the monster. Rah, rah, rah.
Yes, of course. This also came at a perfect time since we basically started this as soon as Epic was finished, essentially, and so I think that was good timing. It's good ass timing.
Extra motivation.
It did, absolutely. So yeah, we're gonna go chapter by chapter. We're gonna try and discuss everything in depth. We're doing chapter by chapter because I was personally too lazy to restructure my notes in any more meaningful or well organized way. So I just kept them as is, and this is what we're going with.
And I kind of just treated this like a 5th grade reading analysis where I did go chapter by chapter.
Fair. So okay. So to start off, chapter 1.
They gaslight Percy.
This is our. Oh yeah. Also spoilers, obviously, from here on out. I already told you to read the book though, so do that already.
Fair warnings have been given, so you rescind your rights to be offended at spoilers.
Yeah.
Plus, this book also is old. Like what, 2010? You said?
Yeah. No, it's like older. It's like 2006. I want to say. It'd been out for a few years by the time I read it the first time.
Spoilers are fair game, basically.
Spoilers are fair game. Go read it. I told you to read it. Go read it. And I don't think there's any twist in this book that most people who are like passingly familiar wouldn't already know. Unless you're like coming from the movies and therefore all the twists that you understand are actually just wrong.
To be fair, I don't really remember the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, chapter 1. Let me actually check my notes for this. I think this was okay. Okay. I mentioned. Oh,
Well,
okay.
while you double check things, I would like to bring out this joke of this book I could tell is quite old because Percy unironically used the term doofuses.
Doofuses. Yeah. There's some old slang. There's some old slang in here. There's definitely some. But oh yeah, I was I think literally the first note that I made was a note about Mrs. Dodds's like leather jacket, and about how the aesthetic of a lot of the monsters and the gods, an aesthetic that will carry over throughout the rest of the books, and how I think it's really neat. I really like the silly aesthetic that the book presents. The fact that they're all like they're all like dressed like modern people, but it's like in a way that's kind of funny, you know? And Mrs. Dodds in the leather jacket.
Yeah, I kind of get you for the most part, except for Auntie M. I don't quite know why they gave her that outfit. Kind of felt a bit weird.
That could a little bit that might be,
but again, getting ahead of ourselves.
Let's focus this. We'll get to some other funny descriptions as we go on. I would
like to say my very first note was I shouldn't read this book. It says do not read this book if you suspect yourself to be a demigod. And honestly, I suspect myself of being of divine, so I was tempted to not read it, but I had to push on.
Nice. Those kinds of intros were pretty popular back in the day. I could swear that this wasn't the only book that did something like this, but
I mean, I feel like it's just a trope with urban fantasy where it's just you are living in bliss, but if you read on, you will see the truth.
Yeah. Oh, also, I'm gonna like adjust myself just a little bit. Let me just. There we go.
Increasing height.
No, just there was like a tangent that irritated me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But and anyway, not to break my vow on the river Styx here so soon, but I find that no adaptation, not even the comparatively pretty good series, actually has managed to get across the book's kind of unique aesthetic. It is very humorous in the way that it approaches a lot of stuff, and I think that a lot of adapters tend to be kind of nervous about just unironically putting really silly stuff, like putting Asterius in like tidy whities or stuff like that. They really shy away from it a lot of the time.
Keep in mind, for those who are unfamiliar with the book, Asterius is the Minotaur.
Oh yes, that's I'm using his given name. My bad.
Names have power. They just call him Big Minnow.
Big Minnow is okay.
Yeah.
But okay, my second note is just immediately that I vibe with the prose style, even as an adult. Percy's voice seems distinct and of his age without ever feeling limiting. He observes things that he doesn't understand, whether it be adult things or demigod things, which helps both show his age and make the world seem more complex. I also really like pithy, descriptive prose. It paints a good picture and doesn't waste your time. So in general, I'm just like complimenting the way. Yeah.
Quick, need to interject. What's a prose? Because the only prose I know is pros and con.
Prose is in prose. That is like referring to like written work in creative medium like this that is not poetry. So it is the text of books, essentially. That's what it is. Outside of I think dialogue is not technically counting as prose, but yeah,
so
it's just
separates it from just the text of a book.
I could have sworn one, you work at a library. Two, I could have sworn I explained this to you like 3 weeks ago.
Okay, you absolutely have. I'm kind of just reiterating here because you said something along the lines of, "Hey, make sure you tell me to explain some literary terms because I forget other people don't have an English degree."
Okay.
So I'm just playing my part.
I know. Okay. But okay.
I even told you I will ask you again what prose is.
Perfect. Okay, then that's me not remembering, I guess. So egg on my face. But really though, in general though, I just am trying to compliment though the fact that like the fact that one Riordan really seems to know how to, or Riordan, sorry, I've been pronouncing it the other way like my whole life, and now I realize I'm wrong, and now I'm a little mad about it. But Riordan has been Riordan's really good at writing the young perspective. You buy Percy as a 12-year-old immediately, and yet also he manages to put in enough extra details that if you're an adult reader who kind of knows what to expect, not even just that you've read these books before, but just that you're familiar with the mythology, you read the Odyssey, you like know what's up a bit, know what's coming, that you can put together a lot of stuff really quickly. Things like I think in a later chapter you hear like the sounds of hooves while Percy's hiding from Grover and Chiron, and he doesn't literally describe them as sounds of hooves. It's like he says it's like the sound of like wooden blocks hitting the linoleum floor. And if you know, obviously you're like, we know about satyrs, we know about centaurs. Makes sense. They must be one of the two. But if you don't, then it just, it's like it's such a fun little thing to just like pop in there.
That was in chapter 2, and I believe it was quite described as a repeated clopping.
Yeah. But do you have any other notes on chapter 1, or are we gonna slide through to chapter 2 with that?
Yes, I actually do have some notes on chapter 1, things that I feel like is for characterization of Percy. Specifically, this is where it's introduced that he has both dyslexia and ADHD, as well as he is actually said to be a bit of a troubled kid. Getting constantly kicked out of schools. He never really seems to have a stable set of friends, and his family life, I don't think it was quite mentioned here, but that is important for characterization as well. His family life isn't the most secure due to his stepdad, but we can get into that character later.
Gabe can come later, but
yeah, but we definitely did miss that characterization of he is a troubled kid in a school for troubled kids, and he does have two important traits that I think helps relatability to a specific set of people, specifically dyslexia and ADHD.
And I'll say troubled in a way, but also honestly, I read him as really sad in these opening chapters. He seemed so like kind of beaten down by his situation, by the life around him. He very much reads as kind of a tragic figure to start off, and that like just the fact that when Mr. Brunner is talking with him about, again, I think this is also chapter 2, but when Mr. Brunner is talking to him like actually, I'll get to that when we get to chapter 2. But just there is just a very sad, tragic error. Yes,
that characterization in mind. He is currently in a very sad state of things, and he is on the verge of also being kicked out as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to have one more note where it actually had described how Percy had a blackout rage, where he apparently had noticed once he came to, it looked like water from a nearby fountain had hit. My note says that be Nancy, fool word. But it basically had described it more as a thing that happened to her and not that he had done that. Because again, this is Percy's perspective. He still does not know he can do that.
Mm-hmm.
He just realizes he thinks that happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, we could. If I'm kind of chomping at the bit, so if we can actually, I really want to read my opening note for chapter 2, which is okay. So when Mr. Brunner talks to Percy as he was being expelled, it's very clear this is written from the perspective of someone who is either neurodivergent and knows the struggle, or someone who knows someone else who is. That was worded weirdly. I'm just gonna rip off the Band-Aid and say that
go at it. You're going fast.
No. It's fine. Uncle Rick, good old Uncle Rick here, Riordan, his kid, I believe, his son, I checked, I looked it up, I wrote it down on my note and I looked it up, has a dyslexia and ADHD. And part of the reason why he wrote Percy and why he wrote the rest of the Half-Bloods to be that way was to give his son a character to relate to. So I think that there is something here that he is definitely like using his son as inspiration and trying to write from the perspective of someone who's experienced these things, who knows what it's like. There's a reason why it feels so heartbreaking and why it feels so real when Percy describes it, because Riordan is coming from this place. He's coming from he's coming from a place of deep understanding and sympathy.
Mm-hmm. Additionally, to show not necessarily sympathetic side, he puts a positive spin on it at a later time, where he actually reframes them as positive aspects, specifically of demigods.
Yeah, they become like superpowers on their own, which I think is neat. I think is super neat.
Hmm.
So I also appreciate how much seems obvious on the second read. This is what I was talking about earlier, where Grover's paranoia for one. Then in another section, Rick describes hoof sounds outside the door. Percy's hiding behind, and yeah, it's all just really neat. Yeah,
Ooh,
if you
and
yeah.
one more point that you might have forgotten about.
Mm.
Percy actually thought he saw the shadow of a bow when he accidentally alerted Grover and
He did,
Bruner.
didn't he?
He did.
There's a lot of little stuff where it's like if you know what's coming, then it becomes fun little Easter eggs, things that you might not notice if you're reading for the first time as a kid.
Yeah. Plus, additionally, it was here where they were also foreshadowing. Yeah, I'm going to be cutting the pretenses. Spoilers are here. The
It's fine.
foreshadowed the death of another kid because Grover had said something along the lines of they
Mm-hmm.
never make it past sixth grade, he can't fail his duties again, and that Bruner and Grover both had said their nerves haven't been right since the winter solstice. For my note, I wrote potential last child death, but I believe that was for the instigating plot, if I remember correctly, right? Can you correct me on that?
Something like that.
Hmm.
I'm be honest. I was shifting through notes. I zoned out for a second.
Oh,
See. I like the demigods. I'm too afflicted with ADHD. If I'm not literally trying to pay attention, I won't hear what you say.
I told you it was dangerous to read this book if you suspected demigods and you didn't listen to me.
I didn't listen. Uh,
Okay, well, I just had reiterated some foreshadowing of Grover's last child failure, the tree incident. And Bruner and Grover had said the nerves hadn't been right since the last winter solstice. I had assumed that was the potential last child death, but actually, wasn't that when the instigating
yeah.
off?
Oh yeah. That would have been when the thing was stolen. When the MacGuffin, I
The
believe,
MacGuffin.
the MacGuffin. Um, which speaking of which, I don't have.
Also, shout out to Percy. Oh, I was going to say, shout out to Percy. Kid was hating on the rich. In fact, he felt okay. I should probably also say this. He's living a very poor life, and he felt
Hmm.
isolated from his richer classmates at that private school. And he actually got sad, thinking Grover had a summer home.
Oh yeah.
This kid is just like a sad, wet cat.
He's so sad, and especially in these opening chapters, Percy's character development is interesting, but he never stops being sad. Honestly.
The reason why he's always so sad is because sadness creates tears, and tears are basically salt water.
Oh yeah. The maths there.
It does.
Okay, actually, I don't have much notes on chapter 3 aside from just this is the introduction of Percy's mom, who is the sweetest person on the planet. She's just so sweet. The relationship is so good, so wholesome, so pure. I love her.
Agreed. But we also have to consider this is the chapter where they introduce Smelly Gabe,
Ouch.
aka Gabe Ugliano.
Oof.
I can't believe he actually did name him Gabe Ugly, but I do understand.
A lot of the names are pretty on the nose, so.
Oh, and also the Vision. The Vision was in this chapter.
Oh yeah. Demigod dreams are a thing, are an important thing. I have a note on them later because it continues to be important.
Yes, I
But
think we should at least mention what it was.
mhm.
The note I have is it was a vision of a horse fighting an eagle, and the dream cuts off as the eagle seems to land a final blow.
At that point, they were at the cabin together, right? They were at that little
Yes.
seaside cabin, which is a scene I put it on the list of scenes that I forgot actually existed in the book.
Congrats.
Yeah. I actually literally when I was watching the series, I assumed that was a series invention because I couldn't remember this happening, but no, it was right here. And it's real sweet. It's real good. They get a lot of development during that period. I love it.
Oh, and also, continuing on with the Percy is sad streak, I just had reread one of my notes. Percy did not have his own room, it was Gabe's study.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
This poor child.
Why they always he suffers so much during this whole book. Actually, it's kind of ceaseless. I
I
kind
can
of
understand the childish rage he develops.
I kind of want to say that Percy might have been a lot of people's introduction to this specific type of character archetype of like the comfort character who's never experienced a day of comfort in their lives. Might have been a lot of people's like babies first.
Yeah. But yeah, rental cabin where Sally met baby daddy. I believe the baby daddy was Pontus, right? Greek titan of the sea.
Yeah, probably.
There's a lot of sea imagery going on. Have to assume it's Pontus.
There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things, but that takes us basically into unless you have anything else to say, the chapter 4 action scene, which is our first taste of like
to that.
The Miss Dodds fight was one thing. This to me is the first proper action scene in the book series, and it's real good. It's real good.
Mm-hmm.
It's tense, it's disorienting, it's energetic, and I love the Fruit of the Loom undies. It's funny to me.
To be fair, it kind of is funny. But this is also where it is kind of alluded to of names have power, or at least that's the note I have written.
It's the start of it, yeah. They don't want him calling him Asterius.
Of course.
Minotaur.
Also, at the time, I didn't write a note of this, but in hindsight, I did go back to write this in later. Percy is only strong here because it's raining.
Oh my god! I didn't even realize that. Wait, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, no, it literally says like the ground is soaked. Remember?
I mean, like now I do, but
it was storming.
I knew it was raining. Obviously, I did not realize that was why he manages to kick ass in that moment. That like
literally,
just occurred
every
to
time
me.
that child is dry, he gets a wedgie and then kick, but the second he gets a swirly, then he's just like exactly.
No, man,
so I had thought that was kind of odd that he actually had gotten that power boost, because I was reading that one chapter where he was in the river during the flag game. Then I thought, let me go double check that previous chapter just to confirm my suspicion again. And then like, yeah, it's right there. It was raining. I was like, so that's why.
You did more than I did there. I didn't even. That's like it's like the third time I've read this chapter. I didn't notice that.
I was a librarian for a reason. Because I applied and got a job because they're just trying to get young people in. That's why.
Nice. But anyway, good action scene, chapter 5, which is that here's my first edition of, hey, Uncle Rick is pretty clever. He has a lot of cool little literary devices and little lore bits that he slips in there for his own benefit. And I'll try and cover as many of them as I was able to remember here. But yeah, I just realized that the names have power bit has a bit of a dual reasoning behind it here. One, that is just a thing in a lot of magic systems and mythology. And 2, it allows names and identities to get revealed at dramatically appropriate moments, giving the author reason to hold back, even if it naturally should have come up in the conversation already. It's why like the name Kronos basically like really doesn't come up for most of the book.
Yeah, and this is why Mr. D's nuts goes unnamed for a little bit in the chapter.
Yeah, it takes you a second to find out who he actually is, because like, yeah, the names have power thing. They don't just advertise that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And also I also love how when the topic of capital G God pops up, Reardon just says, now we don't have time to unpack all that. You can tell he's trying to make this world without stepping on the toes of religious people.
Oddly enough, I actually don't have any notes about capital G God.
And and the final okay, you were curious. Okay, a bit of lore about this series is that the gods, the reason why they're not in Greece anymore is because the gods have essentially traveled west. They follow the light of Western civilization, and that has taken them to New York in America. That is mentioned for the first time right here. Luck felt uncomfortable with that. Did not know why.
Let me give my little preamble, because you kind of skipped over that, because I only said it in the starting soon screen. Yeah, I had taken note of the fact that Reardon said the Greek gods follow the spirit of the West, and it felt kind of odd, a bit weird. I didn't know how to quite verbalize it. Luckily, Lily here has words.
Well,
Okay, speak now.
words that are mostly stolen from the ContraPoints video, The West, which I highly recommend if you want an actually intelligent discussion about this. I will give my best Cliff Notes version of what she had said and random bits and bobs I've gathered since myself. And that's that. So yeah, I'll also read my notes first just to make it easy on myself. Here's why the Western civilization explanation comes up. And yeah, this is the first bit in the book that I feel is genuinely outdated. I think more people nowadays are willing to admit that the idea of the West is a bit of a myth, mostly created and propagated by colonizers and white supremacists. So if you were feeling uncomfortable about it, wondering that you're hearing something that thing you were hearing is a dog whistle. That's what that is. That's what that's called. I'm actually gonna mostly discard my notes and say that. So what do you understand as far as the like history of the West and its relation to like Greek culture and how that started? Because hoo boy.
Well, to my knowledge of Western civilization, I have two takes. The first take is it began to be a bit propagandized after the Battle of Peloponnese. Basically, the Greeks beat back the Persians and solidified themselves as, yes, we are taking a stand against them. And that's kind of where a lot of people first credit the East and West split. However, you also need to consider that this was not how they considered things at the time. They were just kind of fighting against another power. That was their mindset. And continuing on, Persia was also considered more of a benevolent ruler than a lot of the Greeks were at the time. The second take I have is the Romans, actually. Because the Romans...
You went like way further back than I expected you to. Okay, go off.
You do remember me saying I have a bit of a hobby in history, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Second take of the West, which seems to be the most popularized version, is basically the descendants of Rome. Basically, this is because Rome once controlled from England to Syria, and basically, after the Turkish invasions, as well as the Muslim pushing, they basically removed Rome, or Roman influence more accurately, from specific areas, which is why it's not necessarily considered the West anymore, despite the likes of Algeria being closer than sub-Saharan Africa, because of how close it is. Because the Mediterranean used to be the world, at least to the Romans, which is why they had gone around it. But then after the Romans had fallen apart, the Catholic Church, which was the remaining unifying point before there was the Great Schism, basically had solidified themselves in former Roman areas. Then some crusades happened, also included the German regions, Scandinavia, and later Russia, and everything in between there. That is what was then considered to be the West. Whereas the Greeks, the Byzantines, the Eastern Romans, whatever you wish to call them, they actually managed to get pushed out of Anatolia. And that's why Anatolia is often considered to not be a part of the West, even though it used to be the major seat of power to the Romans.
So, I'm gonna disappoint you a little bit and say that that was all very interesting, but probably actually not at all related to what I'm kind of referring to here. I wanted to let you go off because that was interesting as fuck. But
and I didn't even get a chance to talk about global north.
I might have to cut you off there with that, because as far as
absolutely cut me off.
Yeah. So as far as I understand, a lot of the like modern ideas of Western civilization is that it is in many ways a much more modern idea. Specifically, not just the idea of East versus West as existed in ancient times, as you very well outlined there, but also this idea that there is a lineage of history that starts with the Greeks, goes to the Romans, and then goes to Europe, and then goes to America. And that is an idea that is most heavily associated with like white supremacy in a lot of ways. It's something that like, let's say, good old Adolf from a certain early 20th century German regime, really like,
kids.
yeah. We're not gonna talk about that. No, we are later. But he was a big fan of the Greeks, and he used a lot of this idea of succession in order to justify a lot of the worst of his actions. The idea that they were like holding or maintaining this candle of Western civilization. There was a similar justification used earlier as far as manifest destiny goes in America. Moving west, expanding westward.
I would also like to add an addendum. The other European powers had a similar notion. They called it the white man's burden, which is how they justify the colonization of other places.
Yeah, but this is a pretty, you managed to identify that it's a pretty old idea, but it is also it is also one that has been recently used for a lot of really, really terrible things, and it's one that gets that for a long time in American schools got regurgitated pretty uncritically. This idea that we were a part of this tradition that started with the Greeks, when like, but definitely not the case. We have very little in common with the Greeks. Our founding fathers were fans of Greek architecture, and that's like about it.
And the vague idea of democracy, though they did it far different.
Mm-hmm. And so there's this idea in the U.S. as a result of it that Riordan was probably taught in schools, and I'm going to put a counter for every time I pronounce his name wrong at this rate. That he's regurgitating here that is a bit of a dog whistle. There's a reason why people don't refer to it so much nowadays, and that's because most people accept that it's pretty like. It's a pretty overtly racist idea, not just in that white supremacists have used it, but in that it is explicitly stated like West is used in the exclusion of all other cultures, as if to denote them as, barbaric or whatever you want to say, as not a part of the cultural conversation that's important.
Or a lot of the times it's just seen as incompatible.
So that's basically my long diatribe on why maybe this idea should have stayed on the cutting room floor. Maybe he didn't need to justify it. Maybe we would have just accepted it.
I was just ready to blindly accept it.
But you were like, oh, something's wrong here. You were hearing that dog whistle a little bit. You were like, I hear something. Not sure what it is.
I don't know what it is, but I feel a tiger somewhere.
Yeah, and that's basically why. And if my memory serves me, they don't mention it as much going forward. It's one of those mini plot elements that Riordan kind of starts to like sweep under the rug a little bit.
I believe they only mentioned it like maybe once or twice in relation to where things are located and why.
That's just this one book too. And also I want to clarify as well, I'm not accusing Riordan of any white supremacy. I'm accusing him of regurgitating an idea that he probably learned in school uncritically.
Plus, by the sounds of Lily, this man was ahead of his time when it came to gay representation.
He absolutely is. We stand Riordan. He's a man who's gotten better with age as far as his takes and as far as his content of his stories goes, his representation, all of that. We in fact stand. Sometimes he has Uncle Rick moments. We gotta acknowledge those.
So, moving back onto regular story, Chapter 6, I became Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. First note I have, monsters can't die in order to maintain a PG-13 rating.
Oh, yeah, I'll mention this as interesting trick number 2 for Riordan, which is that the monsters come back after a certain period of time, which not only gives Riordan an excuse to keep the Greek stories canon while featuring all of the classic monsters, it gives him an excuse to reuse monsters in the future for any reason. He gets to leave him on the bus or drag him out of storage without having to explain himself because he said so this one time. He can do it whenever he wants.
He said the Minotaur's cool, I want to use him.
And you can drag him out of storage or leave him there for any reason. And that's kind of where I'll, here.
I will admit, it kind of gets a bit interesting from mortals turned into monsters. specifically in an upcoming character, Auntie M.
Oh yeah, definitely. Does she actually come back in the future? I actually literally don't know. I don't
I
remember.
don't know, but it's established that the reason why monsters can't die is because they don't have a soul.
Yes, that is true. Which sucks to suck for Medusa, who was a
I
human
mean,
at one
Athena
point.
just has her soul, or did
Yeah,
Athena just obliterate her soul? Like,
sucks to
I
suck, man.
does Athena just have a casual soul?
I don't know, but
She might.
but
Oh God, how many does Aphrodite have?
oh god, let's not worry about that. Yeah, she doesn't get introduced until like Heroes of Olympus. Let's not worry about her yet. But what else was I gonna say? I'm like looking at the notes and I'm like, something is, it's on the tip of my tongue. I was gonna make mention of something. Oh yeah, Watsonian versus Doyleist perspectives. Do you understand that?
No.
So okay, because I know we were having in the DMs where I tried and failed to keep us from talking too in depth about this stuff. We were discussing lore due to a certain World War II plot point.
We're gonna reiterate some points.
We're gonna reiterate some points. And there was a moment where I think I had to stop it there. One, because I wanted to save it, and two, because I think that the perspective that Reardon has and the perspective that this book wants you to take is a little bit antithetical to the super like lore keeper mindset. This book does not reward you keeping track of all the lore very much. This is not an anime. This is a riff on old myths, and like those old myths, sometimes Reardon just leaves things on the table or brings up new things as he needs to. So that's where you have to bring in the Watsonian versus the Doyleist perspective. So you've read Sherlock Holmes fan fiction. You know those two names.
I like how you had to specify fan fiction.
I do. That's
To be fair, you're absolutely correct.
yeah. So yeah, Watson versus Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The idea that a book can have two different explanations behind it. There's the Watsonian explanation, the explanation that Watson would give in universe lore explanations for things, why things are the way they are as according to the story, versus the Doyle's perspective, which takes the perspective of why did the writer do this? Why would this element be included? Right, so like the Watsonian explanation for the dyslexia and the ADHD is that their brains are hardwired for ancient Greek, and they have those like super fast battle reflexes. Doyle's perspective is that Reardon, another counter, ding, Reardon wanted a character for his kid to look up to. Right?
Also, just say Ricky Dan, and I'd equally understand. It's
Uncle
fine.
Rick. I'm gonna Uncle Rick. He wanted a character for his kid to. Shut the fuck up. He wanted a character for his kid to relate to. And so I think that's the best place to look at for a lot of Reardon's lore, for a lot of his explanations. He's not the most consistent when it comes to a lot of lore. He forgets things, but what he does do, what he is good at, is he's real good at making a story that feels like it means something, feels like it's going somewhere, has consistent themes that are well executed, and that's, to me, usually the way you want to approach his stories. Don't necessarily get too bogged down in the lore. Try and sit down and think about why he's doing the things he's doing, and just contend yourself with the fact that the lore is never gonna be perfect. Best way to have a good time with it, in my opinion, and probably the best way to read most books.
So the Doyleist explanation of why Percy just gets a new bully in Clarissa in order to replace
is it Clarice?
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 Oh yeah, it is Clarice. I just looked on my notes and it's spelled. No, the Doyleist explanation of why there's a new bully is because Reardon likes to see Percy suffer. I mean, he needs to have an antagonist. But the Watsonian explanation is people just suck sometimes.
I would say, if anything, the Doyleist perspective is that it's meant to be some foreshadowing for who the final bad guy is, in the same way that Draco Malfoy little baby wizard supremacist is our introduction to the themes of the bad guy. You know, Clarice,
Wait, Percy's gonna have to
daughter
fight
of
Voldemort?
Ares, her literal dad, Ares.
I know, I'm screwing around.
So yeah, I think that's a part of it. It's a microcosm of the big boy conflict in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love the descriptions of all the different cabins though. This is speaking of Harry Potter, this is a series that I think is very easy to slot yourself into being a kid of one of the gods. Easy to pick a cabin for yourself and just say, haha, this is my godly parent, let's go, let's start role playing.
I mean, they would kind of just shove you in cabin 11 as well.
Yeah.
Cabin 11, for those who don't know, is Hermes' cabin, because he is the god of travelers, and he likes strays.
He does like strays, even though he does not pay any attention to his actual children, apparently.
It's like liking a stray cat, but never buying one yourself. Actually, no. Liking a stray cat, but never getting your actual cat any fun toys.
Ooh, ouchie. Which actually, look, if you would like to what would your cabin be, out of curiosity?
My cabin. Well, seeing as I am currently a robot, probably whatever Hephaestus goes to.
Okay.
I know, I'm quite literally a construct.
Gotcha. I know. Wait, I actually promised not to say this god's name during the. I promised not to say it. Shit.
You swore on the river Styx.
I swore on the river Styx earlier too, and I broke it within 5 seconds. Apollo.
Yeah,
I've always been an Apollo kid. Apollo's my favorite. I swore that I would not. I swore that in an effort to not spoil things about future books.
You get to pass this one time because you're talking about whose cabin you'd be in. You're not talking about future stories.
Yeah. I will. I swear to not discuss future book elements heavily, and to keep that for future videos as much as possible. But Apollo always been my favorite. Just saying.
She also had said she would be in the Apollo cabin but try to date Hermes.
Well, I mean, Hermes from Epic is real hot, so there's that.
Well, now that we're on the topic of the Greek gods are real, I think I have a shot with Aeolus.
It was shot with Aeolus? Okay, fair.
Yeah. I mean, she was pretty cute in the epic version.
Mm. Though I think Aeolus is... I mean, like...
In the standard story, it's Aeolus is a man, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like...
But I mean, something, belief changes shape, something.
Fair.
Actually, I don't think that was established in this canon. Well, trying to find Cersei.
Fair.
Or Calypso.
Calypso's hot.
Calypso's hot. That's the plan. I'm gonna go sail the sea to find Calypso.
She's a character later on. You'll meet her.
Hell yeah. I got a shot.
Okay, chapter... Where even were... Oh, wait, I have another chapter 6
We
note.
are now on chapter 7.
I have one more chapter 6 note, which is that this is the beginning of Percy being a sassy little shit who mouths off even when he shouldn't. Incredibly Spider-Man coded. I do love it.
Oh, I also have a note right here that says Percy used sewage attack. Totally the son of Pontus.
Yes.
Of course.
Okay, so now actually chapter 7.
Oh, also, this is something very important for foreshadowing. Percy starts to get ideas about the underworld and about visiting his mom.
Yeah, more them
breadcrumbs.
Foreshadowing is a literary device in which... Okay, chapter
7. My dinner goes up in smoke.
Oh, yeah. Which, okay, this is my beginning of my Annabeth praise, by the way. This is the first act of my Annabeth praise, which is that maybe it's because I know where her arc is going, but I quite enjoy how prickly Annabeth is here. It's in a realistic kind of way. She's being unreasonable because she wants to come across as cool and above it all, while also a bit believing herself to be above the new kid. It's equal parts hazing and equal parts affront that makes more sense with the context that she's also just a scare insecure kid playing it being a big fish in a little pond.
Something I also had quite picked up on her is Annabeth feels like she's she uses her godly parent as kind of a crutch, I will be honest.
She
Where it kind of feels
does.
like she relates a lot of things to her godly parent that presumably does not care of her.
Which, considering what we learn about her issues with her family, her mortal family, it kind of makes sense that maybe she'd feel like that's all she has.
Hmm. Because her mortal family, something something evil stepmother from Disney.
Oh, oh yeah. But yeah, she's a deeply insecure person is the main thing, and a lot of those insecurities will get poked at, prodded at, and healed over the course of the series in interesting ways.
Hmm. But for now, all we really need to know is this is a front.
As a
This isn't
front, as a front, she starts off a bit mean. She gets better.
her. Hmm. Another foreshadowing note I have is Olympus is in the Empire State Building, and Half-Bloods can take field trips there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's on the
It's
600th floor.
established, yeah, casually established. And also, for some reason, in my foreshadowing notes, I have naiads are terrible flirts.
Hmm.
I don't know why I have that in foreshadowing.
Nice, nice. So, chapter eight, perhaps,
Yeah,
mayhaps. Okay, in retrospect, it's a bit odd that they didn't clock him as the kid of at least some kind of water deity. Triton is right there. I get why they wouldn't jump to Poseidon, but making the pipes explode should have been the big blue flag. That was a note I put, and then I immediately put an edit because this chapter did something really cool about that, which is that nope. Grover and Chiron were suspecting he was one of the big three from the beginning. And the fact that Chiron was there personally proves it. Never mind, really, it seems more like they were trying to hide it from him and all the campers that didn't figure it out on their own.
honestly,
So
I
I
think
thought
that
that was
was
so
kind of
cool.
quite. I do quite agree with that because it definitely makes sense of why no one with a brain, specifically Chiron, connected things, but yet no, he had connected
Like they
things.
totally did the
Instead,
whole time.
it was for protection because it was already established that this man cared so deeply about him. And Lily, you forgot to say your thing about Percy misinterpreting his words.
Oh my god. Yeah, the sadness, the Mr.
You,
Bruner sadness.
you've said this like 3 times to me offline.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I forgot to put a note about it, I guess. My bad. Oh yeah,
Now's your
just
opportunity.
oh yeah. How in like what chapter 2 I want to say, Mr. Bruner says something along the lines of, it was inevitable that you were going to leave here. Now Percy takes it so personally. It hurts to read actually. It just like it's like a knife twisting in your heart where you realize this poor little kid is just like been rejected time and time and again. He thought he found this one figure who could like who like believed in him, and then oops, no, it rug pulled out from under him. But then double oops, he was there for him the whole time. He cared about him.
This is all true. Also, this is where I decided to make the note of in bold text connection when Percy killed the minnow. It was raining.
Oh yeah, nice, nice.
Oh, and Percy also beat Luke after getting moist, because they had a sword duel.
Oh yeah, with the water bottle. That one was a bit more obvious.
Yeah, yeah. I intentionally. This is literally written in my notes too. Bad phrasing to elicit comedic response from Lily. I am surprised you did not react when I said he beat him after getting moist.
Ew, I hate it.
There's the comedic reaction.
Okay.
In a more serious note, I decided to Google the offspring of Kronos because, Zeus, Hades, Poseidon are the big three because they're the sons
mhm.
of Kronos. And then I decided to look up what other, by the way, I'm not familiar with the Greek gods as much. Googled it, and apparently Chiron, Hestion, and Demeter, Demeter, are also offspring of Kronos, which makes me think, why are they not big ones?
Okay, well, I think Chiron depends on the mythology. I think in the version that Rick is coming from is not necessarily having Chiron being a son of Kronos. Could be wrong. But Demeter's a pretty big deal typically. It's in that she's the goddess of the seasons. Hera is oftentimes also specifically a daughter of Kronos as well, being Zeus's wife.
Oh, I forgot about that one too.
Godly incest being a thing, just one of those things you have to kind of get over. Honestly, a little sexism, a little bit. That's a little bit it. It's kind of a part of it.
Really noted.
Yeah. The goddesses usually don't get to be as cool as the gods half the time.
I see. Also, Lily, are we ever going to address the World War II thing? Because this is the chapter where I have the note for
The
it.
note's staring me in the face. I have two better things
Wait,
to say very quickly, which is one, Grover sighs, must be nice to have a useful skill in reference to the nymphs who are underwater basket weaving. Good joke, 10 out of 10. And the next small note is Hades not having a cabin will have far-reaching implications in future books.
For me, I have a different funny note that says Luke has some bitterness. Percy speculates. My note says due to Dad getting milk. But we can presume this is his dad abandoning him.
So, oh my god, so is it World War II time? Is it World War II time?
I think I will just let you go talk about it because I think I just got summoned myself.
Oh my god, oh my god, I have.
Have fun.
Oh no, I don't have anything meaningful to say. Aside from just that this is another, I don't know, kind of slightly cringe Uncle Rick moment. I really don't know what he was going for here as far as saying that World War II was a product of the big three, like, kids squabbling with each other. I mean, I can imagine what he was going for. I can at least, like, give him the benefit of the doubt and say that like that he was hoping his child readers wouldn't think about it too hard and that he just wanted a big war to reference. But like he goes very he gets incredibly close into saying that like the kids of Hades were on the German side. He gets so close to saying like, God, I'm not even sure if I could say it. I'm not sure if I can say it or if I'll get in trouble on YouTube, but like, like fucking Adolf being a child of Hades is like so close to just being said out loud. It's insane. And the books have like a pattern of referencing a like random historical figure, and just saying that like, oh yeah, this one's a demigod, this one's a demigod. In this chapter, they literally say Houdini was a demigod at one point. They have a joke about how like a couple different demigods have tried to go down to the underworld here and there. Mentioned Orpheus and then also Houdini, which great. Another 10 out of 10 joke, genuinely. But yeah, I don't know. And as far as the World War II thing, I just really don't know. But and honestly, I don't even remember well enough if that's one of those things that like quietly gets swept away or if it just kind of sticks around. I
Whatever
really
the
couldn't
note
tell
was,
you.
I'm sure you knocked him away.
Oh yeah, I faffed around for a bit. Okay, let me just mention something else. I also screw you for leaving me to do that.
I'm sorry, I was told to go check the mail.
Fair, but I'm just like floundering. Okay.
I teed you up for a good thing that would take for as long as I disappeared for.
Yeah. I also talked about the Houdini thing, but let me move on to my next note, which is a bit easier to talk about for me, less uncomfortable. And that here is the establishment of a theme that persists throughout the whole series. The gods mess up, their kids suffer for it, and the kids also have to try and fix it. Now, the most the gods usually manage is to give a slightly kinder fate than the worst possible, and as the gods become more and more well developed as characters, this will be a more glaring issue, and that kinder fate starts to seem more like punishment to clean up their mess when it's obviously beyond saving. Of course, this is at least partially to keep in line with myth and to keep some amount of tension. There would be no story if they use their infinite power to solve issues, but it also makes for an interesting neglect metaphor, or just flat out abuse in certain scenarios.
I mean, yeah, like I said, specifically with the Luke note of Percy speculates Luke's bitterness is due to his dad getting milk. Who's his dad again? Apollo? Hermes?
Hermes.
I knew it was one of the two you liked.
Hermes in this book series isn't that great. I don't know.
Oh, I see. Either way, I have another note that says Luke is apparently a beast at swordsmanship.
He is. He's very skilled. He's kind of the cool older kid as he gets presented. It to me seems relatively obvious that both Annabeth and Percy have some kind of crush on him when they're first presented.
Honestly, I think I misinterpreted that because I read it more as brother.
It's one of those either or things. I think and also
Yeah.
maybe one of those cases
Annabeth
where like
definitely, yeah, Annabeth definitely was crushed. Luke viewed as sister. For Percy, I think he was warming up to him in a bit more. Ah, yes, this seems more like a kind of role model my age, so like brotherish. That's what I was kind of
mm,
interpreting.
I one of those I think it could be either or type of thing.
Mhm.
I think one of those things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. At Percy's age, wires get crossed. It happens.
This is true. In fact, actually, I have a note right here that says Luke tried to cheer up Percy, saying he might be a son of Hermes due to being a jack of all trades.
Mm.
And my little speculative note was perhaps offering him brotherhood, but it says perhaps offering brotherhood to him as well to help this sad sack kid. You know, brotherhood being because of same godly lineage.
Though maybe in context, of course, in retrospect, a lot of what Luke does really just seems like manipulation. But
Yes, in
will
hindsight, it most certainly is that, but we will cross
yeah.
that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah. But really though, this is just start of the theme. The gods are really terrible parents, and that's going to continuously get revisited and discussed as we go forward.
Do not expect
Yeah.
the gods to get better within this one book.
Yeah. In future books, maybe some of them, but for now, for now, most of them are pretty. It's pretty unilaterally. They're pretty unilaterally terrible at this.
Abstained from speaking of the solar sun.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats.
I
Let's go
did
to
not
chapter
speak
9
his
before you
name.
burst.
Chapter 9. Oh yeah, the demigod dreams. So I'll read my note here, which is the demigod dreams being weird is a great plot device. Another Reardon win. Ding. These kids are getting mega traumatized every book, so it makes sense they'd get nightmares. And the magical connection means that some ounce of prophecy or other outside influence can be expected. But it's a great writing device, right? Like you can foreshadow a future situation or illustrate the current one, and avoids being overly hackneyed by way of in-universe explanation. Like the characters acknowledge it, and it takes take these dreams very seriously.
Yeah, plus, if you do ever change things up in the future book, for example, because it had said here, well, previously it said horse versus eagle, eagle strikes horse, and it looks like that's where the dream had ended. Well, you could easily say, well, that could be for this book, but if Riordan really wanted, it could apply to, like, next book or so.
This is just one of those cases in which the Watsonian and the Doyleist explanations really managed to come together in a way that I think makes for some real good writing.
I also have a note here. Zeus is Lord of the Sky, Poseidon Lord of the Sea, Hades Lord of the Underworld. Who is Lord of the Dirt?
Lord of the Dirt?
Yeah, dirt.
I mean, kind of both Hades and Poseidon in their own ways. Yeah, also like Demeter is right there.
Few seasons though.
Well, seasons also like the harvest and like plants and stuff.
Then who's God of the Desert?
God of what desert was in ancient Greece? This is the Egyptians. They don't got a desert.
Okay, fair enough. That now that I think about it, after you phrase it like that, that makes sense of why they didn't have one for that concept.
The Egyptians
if
have
they
Set.
Didn't have one.
The Egyptians have Set, and we'll get to the Egyptian books eventually. They have Set. He's cool.
Actually, I should probably try looking into their predecessor, the Mycenaeans, just because I believe they actually did have deserts since they reached all the way down to the Levant.
Probably, but a lot of gods got remixed. But anyway, Poseidon is god of earthquakes, so there's that one. Probably because earthquakes, tsunamis. Yeah, and Hades is like god of wealth, sometimes associated with like minerals, precious gemstones, things could be found in caves underground and such. So like kind of both.
Plus, he's a very overworked man. He's basically a glorified bureaucrat in some tellings.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to bureaucrat Hades eventually. I think that's real funny.
But this is an important bit of the chapter. Percy spoke to the Oracle and asked what his destiny is. By chance, do you have his destiny or the Oracle's words written down?
Oh, the exact prophecy? Actually, no.
Okay, good. I do.
Yay.
You shall go west and face the god who turned. You shall find what was stolen. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you friend, and you shall fail to save what matters most in the end.
Love that. Also, just Oracle of Delphi is probably the closest these early books get to genuine horror. Like, just like actually terrifying. I do like
Is there like some
conceptually.
sort of snake thing in the mist?
Hmm?
Was it like some snake thing in the mist, or am I misremembering that description?
I don't think so. Maybe.
I might be misremembering that description. Maybe
Mostly
I'm
just the
confusing that for
mummy.
Auntie M.
Just the mummy of it all is like is
Oh yes.
the living mummy, just this thousands of year old corpse, just continuously. Actually, I don't think it's literally thousands of years old, but this reanimated corpse just being strung along, still used as a conduit for.
I personally think that's actually quite cool in a very macabre sense. Also, thinking about it, I think the snake thing in the mist I was thinking of might have been Auntie M's description.
I think so. I think so.
It probably was.
But oh yeah, I have a note too where it's like the idea that God is real and that he's the uncle at Thanksgiving that can't stand you for literally no reason.
Capital G?
It's a lowercase.
Gotcha.
Still funny though. Just this is where you first get the impression like, oh, Zeus just hates this kid for like.
I mean, not wrong.
Yeah, I just hates this kid for like kind of no reason. Like, just because he doesn't like his dad, basically. Just imagine, like, you're the uncle that hates you, like, could kill you by looking at you. Oh, but also with the prophecy though, because one thing that I noticed as I was reading it, which is that like even right at this moment, it becomes, if you were paying any attention, Percy literally clocks the fact that most likely Hades didn't do it. He believes Hades from this point to basically be like, the fact that Hades is a red herring is instantly obvious to any even mildly genre savvy person at this point, that like there's no way it's him.
Which is why it was important to establish Percy's previous thought of my mom is in Underworld, because he knows, we know, so now we're just waiting for the moment where he reveals to everyone, yeah, no, I kind of just wanted to go for my mom.
Exactly. But you know, even just aside from that, and maybe because the Hercules Disney movie came out, so one of the big points of discourse was that it's kind of weird to make Hades the villain of that, because Hades in Greek mythology is just not, he's not a bad guy. Now Hades in this book is still kind of a bad person, a shitty person, but
he's not antagonistic, he's just a bad person.
He's not antagonistic, and like one of the first things you learn when you're studying Greek mythology for the first time is that Hades isn't the bad guy. He's not Satan. He's just this is just his domain. Like,
that actually ties back to the whole split between the ideas of the Hellenistic and the ideas of the Abrahamic, where Underworld and anything of its sort is seen as the bad place, whereas for the Greeks it was just, oh yeah, that's just the afterlife.
Yeah, like Elysium is also in Hades. It's all there.
Yeah.
And also, of course, the Abrahamic religion gets a lot of things crossed. Like a lot of like the Abrahamic version of Satan, or as we understand him now, is based off of a combination of like Hades and Pan. It's where you get the goat imagery from a lot of the times. It's all Greek. It all comes back to here.
If I remember correctly, I believe hell itself also traces its name etymology back to something relating to Greece, doesn't it?
Not to say that there are no traces of Greek history and art in like in like modern American or Western European culture, but you know, of course, we litigated the whole West thing earlier. It's complicated, it's complex.
In fact,
nothing we could cover completely.
Things I would actually like to say, some scholars actually say Christianity, specifically Judaism actually, might have actually been influenced by Eastern practices, specifically that of Zoroastrianism. I've not quite looked into it as much, but that's what some scholars have said.
I'm gonna put that firmly in the category of beyond the scope of this stream, and we're gonna move on.
I don't have chances to say these facts often. I have your audience captive.
I know. Also,
back to book. This is something very related to Percy. He finds out that he's reported as missing.
Oh yeah, with his mom and everything. This is another case of Percy going through it.
Yeah.
But also,
I opened up the book so I can get this quote exactly since I didn't have it exactly. Um, Gabe Ugliano claims his stepson, Percy Jackson, is a troubled child who has been kicked out of numerous boarding schools and has expressed violent tendencies in the past.
Oof.
So, yeah, Joy, his stepfather, literally turned against him, thinking, "Ah, yeah, he's the reason everything bad is happening with my car and my wife too, I guess." Oh yeah, by the way, it was established he cares more about his car than his wife.
May he rest in peace in the New York Met.
No, I think it was like Bangladesh that he was sent to.
uh, oh, my final note for the chapter is just that the Sky God hating you is a great excuse to make this book into a road trip book. And all the books going forward will essentially be like road trips. It's all road trip stories. They go from place to place, come across a place, do a thing. It's all very Odyssey in that way. And the structures, they go to a place, they do a thing.
Highway.
They usually, come across a monster. Next thing happens, very episodic that way. But I just love a good like road trip story is the thing. So already in that way, I'm deeply biased towards the structure here.
Did you especially love the truck trip that's going to be coming up?
Oh yeah, we'll get there eventually. Chapter 10.
What?
Chapter 10.
Yes.
My literal first note is haha, Luke is definitely manipulating two toddlers that have a crush on him.
For me, my first note is holy shit, Grover unhinged his mouth to eat an apple whole.
Oh yeah, that was great. Grover eating in the background is great. 10 and a 10 gag.
Oh, also it was established of Sally Jackson's sacrifice. Of why she married Gabe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I was like,
wanna weigh in?
yeah, just the whole human stench and everything. I feel like I have nothing to comment on here because it's, I don't know, I have nothing to say. It's mostly just feels like an excuse for Percy to have a really bad home life. Like,
Yeah, for the uninformed, it basically was Gabe smelt so repulsively human that he masked Percy's demigodness.
it's I really actually have very little to say about it. It is just one of those like it's just put in there just to give us an in-universe reason as to why Percy's home life is so terrible in a way that the kid readers could understand. Like in reality, situations like this are usually a bit more complex, but it's fine. It's fine. It works. It works.
Mm. But pretty short chapter, not too much going on besides Percy ruined a perfectly good bus.
There's that. There's that. I will though. I have a couple little notes, mostly Annabeth stuff. So her being in her full "my mom isn't amazing. What do you mean severe child neglect" phase.
That's right.
And just all she's like all posturing. She's like 90% posturing by volume essentially. All disliking Percy basically because her Karen mom told her that his dad was trouble.
Oh, I also do have a note that says Annabeth seems to care a lot about godly heritage. I don't exactly have any corresponding quotes for it, but something tells me it was one of the situations where Percy had asked, "Dude, what's your problem? Our parents don't get along."
Mm,
That's my hunch at the very least.
definitely. Will honestly rare adaptation win. I think I think the show throws in some little elements that actually do a really good job of further illustrating this divide, as well as kind of what's wrong with both of the parents through Medusa more. They kind of in retrospect, it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity as far as the book is concerned. So I can't even say anything much else about it because it's like analyzing stuff outside of just this book. But needless to say, I gotta put a pin in it and remember to revisit it when we get there in a couple months.
Duly noted, and I pulled up the quote where Annabeth says, "Look, we're not supposed to get along, okay? Our parents are rivals." That's literally her justification.
Yeah. She's a kid who's just repeating the things that have been told to her at this point.
Basically,
That's about it.
which is an interesting mark of her character. In fact, once it comes to it, remind me to speak of chariots. Oh, also the quest starts. We forgot to mention that.
Quest started. They're on the quest. I mean, I did say the road trip. Road trip started. Road trip.
You said the road trip, not the official quest. Because
Quest
remember,
is the road trip. Quest is the quest road trip. Same thing.
Quest has the very not political context to them, important social context.
Mm-mm.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. Where basically it's actually quite treated as a big deal, where this is Grover's path to redemption as well, after quote failing previously.
Mm-mm. Quest will. I mean, each book is its own quest essentially. So
I kind of assumed.
yeah, it's a pretty straightforward structure in that way. Though, my last note for the chapter is the fun little unique curse that they have. I promised myself I would write down. No, I promised myself I would write down all the like funny like Latin or Greek phrases that they used. So we got "Gakas meas veximi," which Percy says at one point to Mrs. Dodds, and he says that he believes it means something along the lines of like "eat my pants" or "eat my shorts." Obvious Simpsons reference.
Oh goodness, he's bored.
It's amazing, but it is mistranslated. Sadly, I looked.
What is it?
I looked it up. I found out on the Percy Jackson Reddit that apparently it's actually said in like a passive voice. The verb is passive instead of active. So instead it's like, or it was passive instead of imperative. So it's instead more like my shorts are being eaten. So, wah wah.
Yet again.
Immense disappointment.
My final note of this chapter is Percy ruined a perfectly good bus.
He did. The chapter names are
and
cute.
Argus left to get milk.
The chapter names are real cute. I actually get how Heroes of Olympus does away with the cute chapter names, and I'm very sad about it. I'm very sad about it. Yeah. I think they come back eventually, but but they're such an iconic part of this series, honestly. Okay,
And
so
chapter 11
chapter 11, the big Auntie M chapter.
is now an appropriate time to bring up how apparently they described her as wearing Middle Eastern garb.
They did. It feels slightly racist.
Yeah, because I was trying to rack my brain on if there's any significance on why Medusa would specifically be Egyptian coded, but no, she was Greek.
Yeah, I've seen Medusa played by all sorts of actresses in the Stray Gods musical. It's an animated thing. She's Indian. That's real cool. In the movie that I at one point promised I wouldn't speak much about, she's played by Uma Thurman, who does a great job, basically dressed in the same way that she is here, but clearly like a white lady. And I believe she's Asian in the series. So yeah, they've had her. She is one of those people you can kind of just have be played by whoever. It generally works out. But it's just one of those cases where it's like there's something being done messily here. I don't have the verbiage or the knowledge to explain what that is. I am unsurprised that both adaptations lean away from it.
I see.
So, I mean, with that, it's kind of all I have to say about it, I guess. It's a cool fight scene. It's a cool action scene. It's the first.
It is.
It's
cooperation.
Cooperation. It's the first like genuine little Odyssey bit that I was talking about, where it's like they go to a place, they see a monster, they do a thing, they go to the next place, and this is like the first place they go to and do a thing at.
I feel like we should also mention this as well of the building tension, because I think that was also something that was quite cool. Sure, for us, the readers who know of the existence of Medusa, well, they also knew too. But it was the build-up with all the statues of frozen people who seemed a little too lifelike, and Grover kept saying how, hey, that looks like my uncle.
It's a tense scene.
And then it even rises even more to that, where Auntie M, Medusa, as we know, starts to say their names without them ever having said it.
No, it's a tense scene. It's really well executed. It's like I don't know if you want to get someone into Percy Jackson, I guess just slap him down in front of that chapter or whatever, and
Also, oops, I
yeah.
accidentally popped my mic.
Hey, okay. So honestly, the main note that I put here is that mailing the head to Olympus afterwards is the first of
Oh,
a
good.
long series of big dick moves by Percy Jackson. You're really starting to get the sense that he's kind of done. Absolutely. This is the first time he does something. He goes from sassy to having the audacity, TM.
Oh, what was the word that Annabeth used to describe him?
Um, I don't remember. Um,
I want to say it was
well, that's
audacious.
what I just said.
No, hold on. You know what? I'm addressing the book. Impertinent. That's what was
Impertinent.
said.
Yeah, yeah.
Impertinent, which is rather apt in my opinion.
Mm. So, oh yeah, the thing about the show there, which I'll leave for later. But the only thing I'll say is that Percy mentions feeling bad a bit for Medusa in the book. That's cranked up to 11 in the show. For
Ah,
pretty good reason. And yeah, we'll get to that when we get to that. But Medusa as a sympathetic figure is something that's come up quite a lot in recent years, alongside like other modern retellings of X myth, in the same way like the
yeah.
Song of Achilles or epic or insert thing here, that Medusa is one of those characters that oftentimes gets rehabilitated into a more complex sympathetic figure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Something I had seen when watching an overly sarcastic productions video was at the very beginning, Red had said there's been a bit of correction with how people have been viewing the story recently, where they start to view it as not Athena punishing her, but granting her an additional protection.
yeah,
No, I
because
believe.
yeah,
Oh, go
because
on.
it just because the whole starting of it is that the Poseidon seduces Medusa, but seduce is not, it's not the right word. It's not the right word for what happened there.
Unconsensually seduced.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe Red had said that wasn't initially the part of the story, though, of it being a protection thing. Athena most certainly punished.
It was almost certainly a punishment, and the series frames it as that, as a punishment, but also frames Poseidon as being an aggressor is in this as well, which is where you come from. Like, God, you gotta feel bad for
It was
Medusa. She
it
basically
more or
got
less
caught
had said
between the
both gods.
machinations of two different gods, and it could do nothing about it.
It more or less said both gods were bad. Also, something else noted was Annabeth was also trying to defend Athena's actions here.
She was, and that was, well, yeah, that's a character development for another book.
Indeed, it must be, but because we are still discussing this book, it has to be noted as a character trait.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like I said before, she seems to really play up the godly parenthood.
She does. Which, speaking of which, chapter 12, I have almost nothing to say about chapter 12. Actually, I just mentioned Grover's an environmentalist. There's more Chronos hints thrown in here.
Mhm.
A few here and there kind of slid in pretty naturally. But I've no broader things to say. I didn't write a note for every single chapter. I skipped 14 entirely, for example.
Gotcha.
But you have anything to say on chapter 12?
Yes, actually. This is where they were hinting more and more that Hades isn't looking for the lightning bolt at all, because the kindly ones and Medusa talked about Percy being a pawn, and the kindly ones were seemingly looking for something that wasn't quite the bolt.
Yeah, yeah.
So just a little more foreshadowing on that. But besides that, Dog seems sentient, and Grover knows Percy has daddy issues.
By the way, that did kind of remind me because a note that I put earlier but I didn't mention was that Annabeth's Yankees cap, her invisible Yankees cap.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
there was actually a bit where I had started misremembering that was actually the Helm of Darkness that had been stolen, because I knew for a fact that Luke had stolen the shoes that he said were a gift.
Mhm.
So I was starting to suspect, but it seemed to be separate things actually. So discard that. But
Ooh,
I do wonder how she came across it actually.
that is actually quite interesting now that you bring up the shoes, because I never made any notes on them at all. Not even when they were acting up after they were put on.
I put a little note down because it occurred to me relatively early on that Percy was catching on to the fact that Luke mentioned acquiring things, buying things, or being gifted things a lot of the time, while being a little bit like privately suspicious about it. Correctly so.
Yeah.
It heavily implied that most of the things that Luke has on hand are stolen.
Again, this is going to be stuff coming up later, but basically, at a certain point of the story, I actually did assume Annabeth had the Helm of Discord because,
Darkness.
yeah, and turns invisible, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, chapter 13. First note I have here, Annabeth is a fucking nerd for architecture.
Oh yeah, that's cute. I love that. I
Mhm.
My main note is just I gotta say, even as a kid, I felt so bad for the kids on these quests. They're always
Oh,
hungry or hurt and like dirty and struggling, and like they're always describing how like they're like, well, we haven't taken a bath in a week, we haven't eaten in 2 days. We're like, and it's like even as a kid, I was just like, oh my god, are they okay? As an adult, it's like unbearable. It's like, can they have a break?
the
Actually,
funny thing is, I have a note here that basically says Percy is a wanted fugitive. His next quest should be a break.
it's not. He's never gonna get a moment of rest in his life. But yeah, I mostly just put the note that like this is the only YA novel where it is unironically terrible to be the same as the main as the main character, aside from maybe Hunger Games. Like he's just the proportion of time the main character spends absolutely miserable. It's just so insane compared to most other books like this.
Mm. Wait, I feel like we're also underplaying the fact that Percy is actively being sought out by the law,
Oh yeah, he's a fugitive at this point.
and it just gets worse the next chapter, but we'll get there when we get there.
Each chapter they add a little extra bit to the fact that he's a fugitive. Like he was spotted here, this happened, he was accused of doing this thing, and like the more and more you see it, the more resigned he gets, and the more you're like, this kid, oh my god, can he have a moment of rest? What is
Uh,
happening here? But yeah,
but
also,
I would also like to bring up how Hades is only allowed to visit Olympus during the winter solstice.
oh yeah. So Annabeth tragic backstory time. This is where she mentions her parents, I believe. She's the best character. I will accept no criticism about it at all. And also just knowing about her parents, about the fact that her dad's maybe well meaning, but like
He's
not
a
the
bit of a
nicest man.
pushover.
But a bit of a pushover. Her like evil stepmother, basically just all of this kind of culminating in how she is the way she is. A lot of the ways, like of course she retreated to her her absentee mother, this like identity as a demigod, because what else does she have?
Additionally, she has a very idolized, I think that's the word, view of her mom.
Mm-hmm. Because she has nothing else. What else is she supposed to do? She needs she needs her sense of identity and a sense of validation from somewhere, as a lot of severely neglected kids do. They're hungry for it, so she takes it where she can get it.
Which is probably why both her and Percy are such suckers for Luke.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I also have a note here saying, again, Annabeth relates godparent cooperation to personal affairs. See Chariot and cooperation.
Hmm.
Because for her to finally starts to play ball a little more with Percy, he said, has Athena and Poseidon ever worked together? Because he was getting tired of her being all like, no, we're supposed to be rivals. Until finally, she's just like, okay, well, it was the chariot since your dad likes horses and my mom likes war.
Mm-mm. It's
So I
it's
definitely think that's another. Go on.
it's a
I was just
little
gonna say that's interesting.
it's a little olive branch being held out, you could say.
Exactly, but it still definitely struck me as this kid needs some help because she is still relating her godly parent to personal affairs.
She's getting there. She's getting there.
She is, slowly but surely.
So 15, I believe, is where. Because oh, actually, do you have anything for 14? I skipped over it.
Yes, I actually do have a little for 14, but first, I just want to say a joke. I wonder what a kid thinks of Knuckles.
God, probably does not like him.
Yes. Okay, so chapter 14, Percy officially becomes a fugitive because people had viewed it as, oh, by the way, we never explained the mist.
Mm. I mean, the mist is just Uncle Rick's excuse to like not have everyone completely confused and alarmed every time something magical happens.
Basically, for those who don't know, the mist retcons people's minds to see something that makes sense to their vision instead of seeing Greek god stuff. So, for example, while fighting Echidna, the mother of monsters, with her chimera, instead of seeing all of that, they saw Percy setting up a bomb.
Oh my god, they do. And it literally retcons in certain cases.
Yeah, for example, earlier on, we never brought up the character of Mrs. Dodds. She was a
I
teacher
named
that
her
was
like 5
secretly.
times directly.
We never exactly explained what she was, though, did
Yeah,
we?
one of the kindly ones. She's a fury.
She's a fury, sent to go kill a child. But then, after Percy killed her with the help of Iron giving him a sword, no one remembered her. None of the regular people did, at least.
That's one of
They
the.
just said she never existed. We've never had her. So what Lily was saying about it retcons people's minds sometimes is quite literal.
Yeah, one of them. One of the more direct retcons. Usually, it just acts as like a little bit of visual camouflage. And I think if Uncle Rick was more lazy, that would have been it. But the fact that it so thoroughly affects people's minds leads to some pretty interesting scenarios, unironically.
Like Percy being an actual fugitive.
Like that.
Exactly. Other notes I have is Percy was in water but not wet. Does this mean water is not wet? This is a joke. We're not getting into that debate.
Okay.
The more serious note I have
Chapter
is
15. Chapter.
hold on. We still need to say he was directed specifically by a woman's voice in the water, similar to his mom, to go to Santa Monica Pier. And then she said, "Bye, the water sucks here
Oh
because it's
yeah,
polluted."
super polluted. It was like brown. I
Yeah.
think this
All
was
right.
accurate.
Introduce chapter 15 then.
Chapter 15. This is where they have the iris call with Luke, right? This is how we add
Yes.
convenience here because sometimes cell phones aren't available, so so they do iris calls instead. They're pretty reliable. Work up, especially since one of your boys is a water boy, so he can. It's easy enough. Easy enough to make one. But there was an interesting thing where they said that where Luke mentions that this thief would have to be invisible in order to
Pull
be
this
able to
off.
seal the bolt. And it occurred to me that one, obviously I think the gift of the cap to Annabeth was him, right? But also he's like very directly throwing Annabeth under the bus here.
I'm going to be entirely honest. I kind of got from that one because I didn't remember the fact he gave that to Annabeth. I just remember Annabeth had that was all.
Yeah, he's throwing her under the bus very specifically
And
here.
and something else that I had clocked was Annabeth likes to play god politics and Athena sided with Zeus. So I thought, maybe there's some connection there.
You got red herringed by Luke.
I got red herringed. I can't believe it. I got by a children's book.
Also another
Side
bit
quest.
of another side quest. Percy having the audacity TM this time with Ares, and also Ares openly admitting to framing Hades here. I don't know if you caught that.
You what?
He like openly admits to framing Hades in this. He like doesn't try to hide it.
I did not clock onto that. All I knew was Hades told Poseidon that, or Ares told Poseidon that Hades probably stole the bolt. Not that it was a frame job, just like it makes sense that would happen.
Let me. I kind of want to pull up the chapter to see if I can find the line that I'm thinking of. But it felt like so direct, where I was like, did he just admit it? Are we just gonna ignore the fact that he admitted it? Let me see. Let me see. Is there something else I can mention in the meantime? No, you have to yap now while I'm looking.
Ooh, fun. It looks like it is my time to yap. So, not only do we get introduced to Ares here, but we also get indirectly introduced to good old Hephaestus, the god of cuckery. Or at least that's how things kind of feel like. Everyone knows that Ares and Aphrodite are a thing despite him and Aphrodite being married. So basically, the quest here was go take Ares or go recover Ares' shield from a water park. Basically, this was a trap by Hephaestus. In fact, it was even alluded to that Hephaestus liked to trap and prank them due to their whole infidelity.
Yeah, the
And
fair.
yeah, and so basically, he made a trap of the mechanical spiders in a tunnel of love to humiliate to them too.
I do like the little bit of gossip that Percy tries to start up. He tries to be like, "Oh yeah, so dang the affair. That's pretty. That's a lot." And then
And then
Annabeth's shutting
Annabeth
him
shuts
down
that
like
down.
like everyone knows about that. What do you mean?
Dude, that's old fucking news.
Here's the full quote, by the way. So I know all about your quest, punk. When that item was first stolen, Zeus sent his best out looking for it. Apollo, Athena, Artemis, and me, naturally. If I couldn't sniff out a weapon that powerful. He licked his lips as if the very thought of the master bolt made him hungry. Well, if I couldn't find it, you got no hope. Nevertheless, I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one that told him my suspicion about old corpse breath. So yeah, he just says it.
Ah, hmm.
Like not directly enough that if you didn't like kind of know, you wouldn't have cottoned on, but like
Yeah.
he says it pretty directly. He's the one that casted suspicion on Hades in the first place.
Yeah, because that's basically all the note says for me. Because I read that quote and made the note of Ares told Poseidon that Hades likely stole the boat.
Mm.
Didn't really clock on a more sinister implication from there.
Yep. But oh yeah, I had a little note here about the me praising the Odyssey like structure of go to place, fight monster, do thing, go to another place. A structure that is like generally looked down upon in writing for the most part. Usually people prefer having a sort of the Matt and Trey
Together.
Parker thing where where
Because of as a result versus and then.
yeah, it's like therefore type storytelling, where this is very much like it's a
And
series,
then.
very episodic, and because it works as a literary reference, I let it slide, and I think mostly it works very well.
hmm Funny enough, I actually had seen a TikTok earlier today that was discussing why Tolkien seems to be a bit different than a lot of fantasy writers. Because a lot of his stuff doesn't matter for the overall plot. Like Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get more into that because that's not for this type of discussion. So, shall we get on to chapter 16?
Yeah, but really, I'll just say this may be proof that, like, you can trust yourself as a writer. You don't have to stick to the held wisdom necessarily.
You could be a little indulgent and go on random side tangents, just a little.
Reardon makes it work. So, yeah, chapter 16. Something I didn't recognize as a kid. Grover is so traumatized and clearly has issues with anxiety. Like, he's very anxious.
Oh, absolutely he is. And something I too had clocked on was, what the fuck is this animal abuse?
Mm. Oh, that hurt real bad. He's so anxious, and he's so like
He's just
seems
a
so
little
nervous.
guy. He's like 14. That poor 28-year-old 14.
Yeah, the different aging of it all. Oh, also,
Yeah, that's the joke, viewers.
here's where I get to go off about why
Oh.
Annabeth is the best character again. Yes. So
Something tells me it's wise to just mute myself and let you go off.
absolutely. So while lesser books might make the romantic a damsel in distress, this book goes for the more interesting option with Annabeth. She is instead someone who is doomed by the narrative until she comes across her love interest, his presence re-railing her life into something a bit better through understanding, friendship, and eventually love. She is an overtly tragic figure, made much less tragic by Percy's presence, and that difference is incredibly important. It's probably why girls who grew up reading actually relate to Annabeth and ship them. Like, not that there's no slash, people will ship Percy with anyone and everyone, but the canon ship remains supreme even in yaoi heavy places like AO3. That's how you know it's good. So unmute yourself.
Oh, that was a beautiful explanation.
Just me going off as to why Annabeth is reigns supreme as far as love
And
interests go.
I do want to add a little more tragedy onto her. While she was telling Percy about her backstory, she also had said, "Children of Arachne, the spiders, go out of the way to find Athena's kids." Like, dude, that's gotta fucking suck, bro.
That does. I imagine that sucks.
She should never go to Australia.
Absolutely not.
Oh god, that'd be terrifying. You go to Australia, you wake up in the middle of a night, and then a huntsman spider the size of your face is on you.
She really should avoid it at all costs. I'm trying my best not to give a spoiler here. So let's move on. Chapter 17.
Hold on. There's some important notes I want to bring up here. Of a Lotus Casino, where basically this had reminded me of how you said, like, oh yeah, this is a bit evocative of the Odyssey, and this was the moment where I clocked, like, oh, how much other stuff was references, because it's been ages since I've read the Odyssey, because, you know, Lotus Eaters, Lotus Casino, bit on the nose, that one.
And I'd said that Sea of Monsters has the most overt Odyssey references. Reardon references a lot of myths in a lot of different places throughout his series. The Odyssey is a major one, but there's a bunch of other stuff too. And for this one, the Lotus Eaters is really about it.
I don't know why I have this note, but under the Odyssey note, I have Annabeth as Eurycles, Grover as Polites.
A little, except there's Grover at the like video game, like, die, human scum. So good.
Oh wait, hold on. This is a one. All right, the way my notes are structured, audience, is I have characters, foreshadowing, notes, and a separate section for joke. I have 2 jokes written here. I swear if Percy can hear the zebra because Poseidon is the god of horses, I will be mad because horses are not like zebras. I read 4 more sentences, and all I have to say is fucking come on.
Yeah, it's a horse thing.
Genealogically, they are different. Like, in the genes, they are very different. The only similarity to them and horses is foreleg and body shape.
It's a horse thing. I'm sorry.
They don't even have the same socializing nature of horses.
I don't know what to tell you. It's a horse thing.
Look,
no one knows that except for you.
I suffer. Second joke I have is Percy's having so much fun at this casino. You could tell he didn't have a good childhood.
Oh yeah, the fact that I'm not even surprised that the second that they're taken in by the whole like they're dirty and hungry. Of course, they're like free food and a shower. Don't mind if I do. What were you say no to that?
Honestly, if I was in their shoes, I'd buckle. I would give in. Like, come on, everything is free. They were actively making you have a good time, and time dilates. Like, what are the chances if you just stay in there, you could just blow over the end of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the Greek gods have another war, and then you're just in there playing Duck Hunt or something. Like, it's fine. It's chill, bro.
Let's chill. Anyway, the Lotus Casino will come back as a plot point, so don't worry about it.
Noted. That's all the notes I have for that, though. Well, important notes, I should say.
Chapter 17. My first note is about how that random cabbie became a bajillionaire. Good for him.
Oh yeah, I have that as well. I also have a note here that says this man is likely loaded with money, or the money's rejected from the company, saying it's a glitch.
I hope it's the former. But yeah, Annabeth has like a Lotus Eater or a Lotus Casino club card that she uses to pay the cabbie.
And it just goes infinite. The guy's just like, we accept it from some places. Here, let's just scan it and see if it works. And it worked.
It worked.
I hope everything in the future that there is a reference to some bajillionaire, and he's just like, oh yes, I used to be a taxi driver until I got my big break from a very kind person.
Let him come. Let him return, please. I don't remember if that's the case. I want him to return now.
I am okay with just that one offhand mention on like a TV interview to set up a scene, and then he's never talked about again because I would know he's living his best life.
Also, right here in this chapter, I marked the third overt reference to the fact that they're all pretty sure Hades didn't do it at this point. In fact, they all seem kind of, I believe even Annabeth mentions that, like, well, if it's not Hades, then, well, it's better if it literally says it's better if it's Hades. We're much better off if it turns out to be Hades, if it's just a brotherly spat, because what it would be if it was the person I'm actually thinking it is so much worse. It's not worth entertaining.
Did they ever say who she thought it was?
She did not say exactly, but she was very like, well, let's just hope it's Hades. Let's just hope it's Hades.
For me, I also have another note here in the joke section of it.
You cut off. Hello? It's not me, right? Nope. Where'd he go?
Unlike Poseidon, who feeds on ruthlessness.
You cut off.
Oh wait, shit! I thought she was just being quiet for the joke.
No, you cut
that's
off.
it. It's just like unlike Poseidon, who feeds on ruthlessness.
No, you cut off. You cut off like for like a good like minute.
What did you? Okay, under the joke section, it says Hades feeds on doubt and hopelessness, unlike Poseidon, who feeds on ruthlessness.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I did not hear that joke at all. You went quiet. I think you disconnected.
That's fine. I'm back.
Yeah. But my joke note is a little joke about how there's no such thing as a free lunch being a Greek saying. I could not find any proof of that if that's the case.
Another thing I have in the joke section is, as per the normal LA experience, people attempted to shake down Percy.
Of course.
Of course.
It's like a bunch of chavs or something.
They didn't put actual gangsters in. It's just like a bunch of straight toughs.
Oh, and also this is, by this point, Percy's pretty thoroughly he's gone through so much shit that he has in fact ascended. He is only audacity now. He is just tired of everything, of everyone. This is where he like beheads the giant Krusty.
He tricks him. Yeah, Procrustes is his full name. He tricks him in such a way that I kind of loved, where it's just like, oh yeah, can you go demonstrate this binding couch? He's like, okay, sure. And then he got strapped to the waterbed.
It's very good. It's also just, to me, more like, I guess before rereading this, I think I had viewed Percy as something of a static protagonist. Someone who didn't really change much, but maybe went through a lot of interesting things. And it was here that I kind of realized, like, I don't know if that's the case. Maybe after here, more or less, but like the change that he goes through in this first book is really interesting and really realistic. Starting off as like this very sad, kind of downtrodden kid, and then going through so much shit that he starts developing a tougher skin. It's a rebellious streak, a tougher skin that he goes into, like, just being tired of everyone's shit. Just, and it's realistic. The progression to him maybe not being a hero or heroic in a traditional sense, but almost like in an Odyssey sense, right? By the time Odysseus is at the end, he's not triumphant good guy. He's broken down. He's taking no prisoners, and that's kind of where we start to see Percy at this point.
I would have to agree with that, because his character development is definitely, I don't want to say negative, perhaps lateral is a better word for it, but it definitely changes from beat down kid to someone who is literally standing up and saying, I will fight you, fuck off.
He improves lives around him, and definitely certain improvements happen to his own life, but I would not say he's necessarily in a better place by the time this book is done.
He's still a good kid from the beginning he was a good kid, but now he's a good kid who knows how to throw hands and will throw hands.
He's a good kid who knows how to throw hands and who also knows that the world is like dark
Unfair.
and out to hurt him.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a lot. More will more be emphasized in like
More beyond.
later. And I have another chapter where I have another note on that. But chapter 18, if you're ready for the underworld saga.
I am indeed. Weirdly enough, it seems I'm light on notes here.
Me too. I didn't have much to say, but I did just have the funny note of just the afterlife being boring paperwork and bureaucracy. It's like one of my favorite tropes, honestly. Also seen like Beetlejuice.
Yeah. I also have a note here where the river Styx is quite literally polluted with hopes, dreams, and wishes.
Nice.
Also, Cerberus is a good boy and prefers balls to sticks and is a Rottweiler.
Cerberus, very good boy. But I was saying that I think the reason why a lot of times the afterlife gets framed as boring paperwork and bureaucracy, I wonder if it's because these afterlives are being written and created by artists who would literally rather die than like do an office job. So it's like if they think of their hell, they're like, that's it.
I also scrolled down to chapter 19 and I got jump scared by my own note.
Oh, nice. Which, yeah, I wonder actually, the chapter 19, let's move on to that. Okay, actually, I want to know what your note is on. I feel like it might be more interesting than mine.
My note is, it describes how Hades somehow resembled Hitler, Napoleon, or terrorist leader.
Oh, yeah.
Had intense eyes and a mesmerizing evil charisma.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's that. There's that. That's mostly walked back, too. Is the funny thing. So the thing with Hades is, at least this is how I've taken it. Hades is a complex figure in this book. But I've always taken it as Percy's reaction to Hades, this feeling of hopelessness and this feeling of like dread. I suspect that might just be part of his domain, in the same way that Ares oftentimes inspires like feelings of aggression, you know, the fact that Percy sees him and immediately just like he starts like wanting to fist fight someone.
That I actually did know. I didn't have a note for it, but now that I think about it, it definitely did seem the closer he was to Ares during that one chapter, the more aggressive he felt. Like he wanted to beat up Ares. And that was something I only had ever noticed when he was around Gabe.
Yeah, I think it might be a character thing, but I had originally I read it as more of a like, I think sometimes the gods just have effects on people. Yeah, effects on people, and you know, maybe some are able to tamp it down better than others. Annabeth is level-headed enough to not like rise to Ares' taunts and be respectful because she has a healthy fear of him alongside all that. But yeah,
she also is the daughter of Athena, his eternal rival, so that probably plays a part.
But to me, I mostly took the whole discussion, the whole like mention of what Percy thought of Hades being like an aura thing, because as we go on and continue to talk with Hades, that seems to very much not be the person he is.
I mean, considering in the same chapter he describes how he's overworked and hell is overcrowded, yeah, he definitely is not coming off as that.
He's tired. He's just kind of a guy. Like, I think I even did I write down somewhere that he's just kind of a tired middle manager type, essentially? Like, he's just... yeah, he's just a middle manager with too much on his plate. That's what I wrote.
What I have written here is Percy has seen what seems to be purgatory. Percy has seen what many would call hell. Percy has also seen what many would call heaven. Percy is traumatized.
Absolutely. Also, the Fields of Asphodel was one of those images that stuck out to me as a kid as being immediately terrifying. Tartarus literally seems better.
Yeah, because wasn't the fields literally described as so many people they looked like blades of grass?
Yeah, people crammed together in an empty field, wandering around until they lose every ounce of identity and consciousness.
On the bright side, it's kind of merciful in a way because after a while they just won't process.
I guess, but dang, I make it quick at that point. I'm done. I'm done.
Lily, hear me out. It's a JoJo's reference.
No.
that one vampire got launched into space, and eventually he stopped thinking.
No, that was a fate worse than death, literally. Okay, let me
JoJo's reference.
let
Okay,
me
go on,
let me
sorry.
mention the note. So I mentioned this because every adaptation changes this for some fucking reason. But Hades, as the one non-Olympian god in the pantheon, it makes sense that he's the only one not to adjust with the times. You literally said that he's only allowed on Olympus during the winter solstice. He does not get a lot of time on the surface. He's usually considered out of step with the others, cut off from the surface as a chthonic god. Even Athena cosplays as a college student now and again, but Hades is dressing like it's still 500 BC, and it kind of makes sense. It is how it should be, and says a lot about his place in the mythology. And so the adaptations, both of them, break from this. The show makes him more of a middle manager type, and for some godforsaken reason, the movie decides to make him like a rocker, like a punk rocker, essentially. And like, to me, this is where he should be. This is most in line with other versions of him. I understand, and it's just the better path, I think.
Yeah, and notably, or noticeably, his underling Charon, who actually interacts with a lot of the people who have recently died, has a better sense of
Charon, I
fashion.
believe, but
Charon, yes, has a better sense of fashion wearing Italian-style suits
and it annoys him.
because he keeps asking for raises so he can buy more suits.
Great, I love that.
Oh yeah, didn't they also pay their way into Elysium, or not Elysium, into Tartarus?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
You're
the good
supposed
old-fashioned
to.
bribery.
Oh, you're supposed to. It's like a part of it's part of like old burial traditions that you're supposed to have.
No, the
A
bribe
coin.
part was to look past their living.
That as well. But he does mention that all the other guys are supposed to have payment ready, and most of them don't.
It's kind of funny. He actually had said like we accept card nowadays, and we will attach it to your last cable bill,
Yeah.
since most people don't have the time to cancel those on account of dying.
Yeah. But it's very much a he's supposed to have coins for the ferryman. Supposed to have coins for
Yes.
him. It's the whole thing.
I still love the fact that he actually updated faster than bloody Hades.
Yeah, Hades is behind on the times.
Yeah, he's wearing fancy suits. He's accepting card now.
But
Chapter 20.
yeah, chapter 20. I don't have a chapter 20 note. Well,
Oh wait, hold on. It's chapter 19, Bolt. The Bolt Thief has the Master Elm 2.
Oh, yeah.
Blah blah blah. Bolt is mysteriously in Percy's bag. Who could have done that?
who could
Okay, now
have done
chapter
that? Probably
20.
the guy that gave it to him. Oops, Ares.
Uh-oh, all Aries.
Oops, all Ares. Chapter 21. No, that's it. Wait, I forgot. Chapter 20 is the fight with him and Ares. Yeah, that's
That's why I only have like 3
Yeah.
notes.
It was a good fight. I have no notes about it. It was a good fight. This is kind of. Oh, I guess I could mention that this is where you get like a lot of the retcons start getting packed into here.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the mist starts working overdrive to retwist the narrative in order to make it to where Percy can like return home. We've had a lot of suffering for him, but we're able to kind of wrap it up in a nice little neat bow to where Ares becomes the like unknown kidnapper man. He's disgraced and is mad about it, and
That is absolutely right, because we forgot to mention when Ares first met them, he literally threatened some random mortal woman so he wouldn't have to pay for the kids' lunch that he said he was going to buy them.
yeah, and like Percy at first assumes that it's going to be twisted away from him, but it's like pretty unambiguous.
I mean, it worked in his benefit too, because apparently when the retcon finished, it's just like, oh, poor Percy Jackson had bravely fought against his captor. It was even reported that way back then that this woman was strong-armed by this man, and she saw him dealing with these kids. Oh, the poor child is innocent. Oh, and Percy also was a little shit, and he's like, I just want to go back to my stepdad. Also, free appliances on him. Call this number.
It's kind of funny to me because Ares will hard blame Percy for this. technically wasn't completely Percy's fault. He leaned into it when the story was presented to him, but it technically wasn't his fault. It was Aries' own bad behavior and his own refusal to abide by like any type of social norm that got him in this situation. But you know, as per usual, the gods don't really care. They're gonna blame you if they can. If they have like an ounce of reason to, they're gonna blame you. So he does.
Yeah. I noticed that my notes got a lot lighter here in the very end because things seem to wrap up rather straightforwardly.
It did. I have a couple things to say though about here, chapter 21, with the solemn reunion between Percy and Poseidon, and how it's just completely heartbreaking, in my opinion. The fact that like Percy being kind of two minds of it, of kind of wanting his dad to just be like, oh, I love you and I'm proud of you, but also understanding that if he did that, that he would not be able to accept it in that moment. And just the whole vibe of it just feels so solemn and heartbreaking. Like you were hoping for some sort of triumphant reunion or for something to give you closure, but instead all you're left with is just the knowledge that no, Percy will in fact never really be able to connect with Poseidon, most likely. That's not in the cards for him, and it really hurts. You can tell that this poor kid wants the validation. He can give a front about it, but like he's not gonna get it. He knew he wasn't gonna get it. It hurts real bad. And also the whole, this is the beginning of a theme that gets another little theme that gets brought back again and again. The idea of like what makes a hero and what the specific interpretation of a hero like even is, because it's a bit different than like, I don't know, random like shonen anime, for example. It's not all about heart and friendship. Being a hero in this context of Greek myth is usually about tragedy. It's mentioned a couple times. Most heroes don't make it out okay. Most of them die at the end. Most of them die really tragic, painful deaths.
Not even Houdini can escape Hades.
Not even Houdini managed to escape Hades at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, also, I think this was the next chapter. Casual lore drop, George Washington, son of Athena.
Oh, we'll get there. But this is just a thing about like a contemplation about heroes, as well as this first idea planted even in the first book, which I feel like is really rare, especially for the end of the end of a first book, which is that like happy ending not guaranteed. Happy ending absolutely not guaranteed. And if they do get it, they will have to struggle for every inch of it, because literally everything is against them. Even if they do everything right, become the triumphant heroes, that does not guarantee their happiness or their safety or any of that. Even if they do everything right and they manage to be heroic about it, it could just buy them a really really young, painful death. So they kind of like, it's a lot of this book is like the disillusionment of childhood, I guess, in a horrible, awful way. And this is a theme that will carry on through the rest of the series. Just being a hero is not something you want.
Glorious.
It's not glorious. It's not pleasant.
Which let's use this to segue into the next chapter, into the end. Is that okay, or do you have more to say? 21.
Just Percy killing someone without any hesitation, or at least wanting to.
Oh, you know what? Let's talk about that, because that's funny. Yeah. Oh, wait, real quick. For some reason I have a note that says confirmation on Gabe beating Sally.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was dark.
Yes, very dark. Then my next note is the subtle desire to commit violence on Gabe has become the explicit intent to murder him. Sally joined in, and she got a lovely art piece out of it. Good for her. For those who are curious, basically there was a return to sender note on Medusa's head, which Percy had mailed to Olympus. And then he basically had told his mom, hey, I'm going to go kill him for how he treated you. And then she's like, no, don't do that. I don't want that on your head. Give me the box. I'll do it instead. And then she sold...
It's really good. No, it's really good. Poseidon does him a solid there.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Poseidon actually did say something along the lines of, hey, if you do want a memento, I know you don't want things but trust me, you can use this one,
Yeah,
and
he
it's the
returned
head.
it. He returned it, definitely.
And yeah, Sally turned Gabe Ugly into a statue. She sold it, if I remember correctly, she sold it overseas to some exhibition who had said, "Oh, this is the perfect art on the human form in its most grotesque state," something like that.
Something like that.
Basically saying, "You sold us a very realistically ugly statue."
So good.
And she used that to get a nice apartment upstate, I think.
And also pay for a semester at NYU.
Yes, which leads us to the next chapter.
Next chapter, which is the last chapter. This is where Luke's betrayal is made explicit. It's also a chapter that's mostly here to like lead up to the next book for the most part. Give us a good. Reardon was real confident here. So he just lays out the potential plot for the next book and is like, let's go. What are we doing next? This is it. Luke mentions his master Kronos. Everything's set up. We know exactly how everything went down. He reveals his evil plan and then bounces. Granted, for once, he does the smart thing of trying to kill Percy and like actually almost succeeding.
It was a scorpion bite, but he was healed because he was still in camp.
Mm-hmm. So,
apparently his end goal is to end Western civilization, and he called it a disease, and he wants to rebuild it as something more honest.
he did say that. Now, not that I disagree with him, but I do worry that it might be a bit messy going forward. So we'll see. We'll see if we have to hand Uncle Rick some more L's in future books, or if it'll be handled well. I don't remember that aspect of it well enough, honestly. So, honestly, my main note for chapter 22 was my little short end review, my final thoughts. So I will read that out.
Before you give your final thoughts, I would like to say a little more in chapter 22 that tied back to what you're saying about Greek heroes typically facing tragedy at the end. Because at the very end, Percy is given a choice of, "Hey, buddy, you know the world is gonna end, so like, if you stay here, we could train you up." Then Percy's like, yeah, about that. I'm going home. Bye."
Basically.
He picks the option of comfort. He was kind of torn about it in the end. He told Annabeth, "Oh yeah, go contact your stepdad. Maybe you could rekindle." Grover goes get milk like his dad did. And so Percy, presumably, I think the main thing that drove him to go back home, besides the fact that he really wanted to spend some one-on-one time with his mom, was the fact that if he did stay at camp, he would have been alone, and he would not have wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand his choice. It ties back to what Lily was saying of Greek heroes often face tragedy as their arc, and this kid just wanted some comfort. So he's just going to postpone the end of the world training.
He did. He has experienced a day of comfort in his life. Good for him.
Now you could give your end thoughts. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of if I can expand upon that, or if you summarize that well. J. Bent, we're literally on the last chapter. J. Bent.
No, we're not even on the last chapter. We're about to go into closing thoughts.
We're about to go into closing thoughts. Holy shit! How are you this late?
I would like to say I called it. I said he was playing with his new toy.
God, of course. Okay. Well, my brain is thoroughly derailed. I feel like you summarized that pretty well at the end. Aside from just he's wanting a bit of comfort. He loves his mom.
Gabe is fucking dead, Lamau.
Gabe is dead, and also this is doing an important thing. I think that's important, I think, for a lot of YA books and a lot of fantasy books in general, which is that it's often good to have some sort of return to normalcy at the end of each installment. It's good to give the child readers a reminder that, fantasy isn't all there is to life, that you have to go out and put the book down. You're back in the real world. There's something to enjoy about the real world. Don't just get caught up in fantasy nonstop. That's no way to live.
I will admit that actually is kind of interesting how this book had portrayed normal life and normal living as kind of a better option than the stress of demigodhood.
It's not even a Harry Potter situation where it's like his normal life is awful. It's terrible. Like it makes no sense why he returns to it. It's like the first thing that every fanfic writer writes out, that like, no, let's get him out of the abusive home. Let's have him just be at Hogwarts full time, obviously. But like, it is for the same reason that like structurally it has the same purpose to bring us back to the real world, to ground the reader away from escapism as they're closing the book. It's just done way better here.
Wait, sorry, what was that last sentence?
It's just
or
done
the last two words?
It's just done way better here.
Yeah, I could definitely tell so. Cause like things definitely seem to be on the up and up. Like in Percy's shoes, the only thing that would keep him at camp for that summer is responsibility for saving the world. Keep in mind, this child is 12.
Absolutely.
Of course he's gonna go back and be like, I don't want to do that again. That was stressful and hard. I want to go to my mom.
He goes back to the real world, stays with his family, and he encourages Annabeth to do the same, to try and give regular living another chance, even if it's difficult.
Because there's virtue in it, and you learn how to be a more socialized person instead of saying, "Well, Athena says I shouldn't like you."
And also, despite everything that she said, her dad still obviously loves her. He's subpar, but like clearly
he gets pushed around by his wife.
She still has something to return to, clearly, and it might not be easy, but it serves a narrative function, and she very desperately needs any kind of parental force in her life.
I would like to say we've gone this entire book review without ever mentioning Thalia once.
Mostly because she's very unimportant in this book.
No, I mean when talking about Annabeth's backstory, there's another layer of tragedy too, where she wanted to stay in the camp for a good time.
Yeah, the loss of Thalia.
Because basically, I remember there was a vague quote, something about the real world is what truly tests if you're any good or not, and that scared her.
It did. But honestly, I'm okay with us not talking about Thalia much here because...
Oh no, it was mostly to segue into that quote because it related to this right here.
Yeah, though I do just want to reiterate though, she's not a character here. She begins to be a character in the next book. And will get further development. She gets a little cameo here, the goth girl that Percy dreams about at one point. But
by 6, I hope she turns back into a tree. That'd be so funny.
She will be increasingly important as we go forward. And so because of that, I think it's worth it to save a discussion of her for later.
Yeah, again, I mostly wanted to mention her for why Annabeth had mentioned the real world test if you're any good.
So my final thoughts, my final review, which is that criticisms aside, this book is so good. It's like one of the few YA novels from this era that I still feel holds up. It's still educational, interesting, and entertaining. It's just good. I don't even know how else to put it. The themes are on point, and I'm immediately ready for the ride the rest of the books will take us on. Even as an adult and trying to read objectively, I'm absolutely hooked. Because I did try to read it objectively with the critical lens. I tried to go back and really think about the themes and see like if there was anything that didn't hold up. And we found stuff, obviously, that did not hold up. But for the most part, it's a very tight, very well constructed experience.
I would have to agree, because in terms of storytelling, it absolutely was pretty captivating. Shocking to say, just because it felt like, oh dang, this kid keeps getting beat down. I wonder what's gonna happen next. He's gonna rise, or is he gonna get beat down again?
He's like Rocky, he just keeps on getting back up.
Weirdly enough, instead of seeing a grand rise, it kind of felt more like, to continue the Rocky analogy, instead of getting up for the good fight, he got up and immediately sucker punched the dude in the dick.
Basically. Also, he does just kind of continue to each time he comes back, he's a bit more bruised than last time, a bit more cynical, a bit more
I hate these gods. I don't want to be doing this.
and that's gonna continue for basically the whole series. Again, I have so many interesting thoughts to give about the gods, about
But they're
Half-Bloods.
for other books.
They're for other books. I've given you some of these off stream, off record. I will keep those to off stream until we properly get to them. But I feel like now we've given our takes. Do you have anything to add, or can I begin to close us out?
I think you can begin to close us out. I think that's basically what I've wanted to say in terms of this final end note.
Also J. Ben's totally right. Book 2 will absolutely give us a lot more to talk about. I like that's kind of where everything comes back. Titan's Curse even more so. But Sea of Monsters, that will be next month, the last day of next month. I'm trying to do the last Friday of each month. It worked out 2 months in a row for it to be the last day. So the 28th of February. Have the Sea of Monsters read. If you want to participate here and enjoy our discussion along with us, go read the Sea of Monsters. It's great. It's amazing. We've obviously given our full recommendation for this book. If somehow you made it this far and haven't read it, which I guess thanks for listening if that's the case. But yeah, that's gonna be next month. I will be putting up the VOD for this on YouTube on Monday, and I have plans to make an edited version of it, a shorter version for like more YouTube friendly consumption, within a week or two, hopefully by the middle of February. So I'm gonna try and do it like that. End of the month we have the VOD, middle of the month I upload an edit of it. I'm not gonna go overboard with the edit.
I can't wait for her to just, every time I'm about to speak, you hear the first syllable of what I say and then it cuts to her talking again.
Yeah, absolutely. Only me talking. No, we had a lot of interesting stuff here. I can't imagine it's gonna get like overly short. I imagine maybe I'll cut 30 minutes of stuff and then mostly just
I feel like my history
pictures.
talk is probably gonna be a bit trimmed.
I might trim that a bit.
I would not blame you also for how to say ahead of time. Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Again, I'll leave the extended cuts up on my VODs channel.
The director's
yeah, the extended cuts will stay there. The shortened YouTube friendly versions will be on my main channel. Just Lily Polydora. And yeah, I literally forgot to mention that if you're interested, all the assets and all the drawings were made by moi. Design of course of Lux avatar from I don't your friend. I'm not sure who they are.
Tibby Tibbs.
Yes. And
also you forget the fact I am actively a streamer here on Twitch, twitch.tv, the power of luck.
Yeah. Go follow him for interesting content. Follow me on those places I mentioned. I got links and panels below, of course. Or if you're watching on YouTube, go check out my profile over there. Links over there if you want to watch these live on Twitch. Have fun with us. I highly recommend it. It was a little dead today. It was just kind of us talking to each other, which is fine. But I would like more audience participation in the future. Certainly, I think that'd be fun. The goal of this
basically means, hey J-Bait, you should probably show up.
Yeah, J-Bait, maybe show up on time. We're probably gonna do these 7 p.m. on Fridays. At the end of each month, with certain extras being on maybe odd days depending. We'll announce them ahead of time. But yeah, anything else that I can that's good to say aside from
Lester is a stupid name.
Lester's a that's like a year away. Hold your zebras. That's a year away.
Did you just hold your zebras, me?
Yeah.
How dare you? They are different. They are different etymologically. Or like lineage wise, whatever the word is. Like how
I
dare I'm
think
fighting you.
I
I'm
think
fighting Poseidon if he
that's
claims the zebra.
I think
Fuck
that's
you,
a
I'm calling
good
it
place.
Theseus.
I think it's a good place to say goodnight. So good night, everyone. Let's give them a good night. Luck, you know how it is. 1,
With
2,
luck ring
3.
off. Remember, everyone, lucky days.
Good night. Wait, no, you have to say it with me. You have to do it with me.
Okay,
1, 2, 3. Good
Good night.
night.